Welcome, everyone, to the final. Wow, the final live panel discussion of the season. Season 2 is coming to an end with this discussion. Lord have mercy, it's been a while. So y'all already know the deal.
Yeah.
Good night. Y'all already know the deal. My panelists, y'all can go ahead and introduce yourself for the very last time in season 2. Whoever wants to start first can start.
All right.
Okay.
You go Schwartz.
Go ahead, brother
Yeah,
Tate. That's all you got.
all right, my man. Now, hi, Tate. That's just what the eighth time we doing this, but you already know here support my family. Been a long ride, and I've been loving every single step of it. You can follow me at Suai_generous_Tate, Instagram, all social media platforms. Content's about to be getting pumped out, and I'm excited for all that. So, yeah.
You don't go.
I can go. I thought you was gonna go next because you was jumping in. Hi everyone, my name is Chanel. I'm here. I'm super excited. It's bittersweet because I'm sad that this is the last one of the season, but I'm also super excited and especially to see what comes up next season. So make sure you stay tuned and keep following. You can follow me at Queen_Chanel P on Instagram, and yeah, I'm here to just chill, hear Schwartz and Tate's perspective on the topics, and yeah.
Yeah. So everybody, Schwartzen here. Y'all can follow me on Instagram at Schwartzen.Persil. Had a great week so far. As my brothers and sisters, my kings and queens know, I did get drafted this past week to the PBA Professional Basketball Association. So I'm back under, what I'm saying, back under a contract. So y'all can follow me for this season. I'll be playing for the spring and the summer for Buffalo Blaze. So I'm real excited. Hope you guys can really support me throughout that. The first contract since 3 years. So I'm super excited, super pumped.
And that's on period. That is on having successful friends. That's on having motivated friends. That's on being proud of all the people I keep around me. Chanel, Tate, Schwartz, all of you guys. Thank y'all so much. Okay. So let's jump right into today's episode discussion. And this week, the episode was Black Boy Joy, which is discussing the traumas that Black men face. So before we even jump right into questions, what were your initial thoughts on the episodes? Like, what did you guys think, learned, anything?
So initially I thought the episode was going to be about like what kind of the conversation that always happens where we talk about how Black boys can't cry or things like that. That's what I thought the initial episode was going to be about. But I did like the episode, and I think that like I said earlier, I really, really would like to hear a lot of Tate's and Swartz's perspective because I have a lot of conversations. Most of my friends are Black men and things like that. So it got me thinking a lot, and I had a bunch of conversations with my fiance about the video and things like that. So I want to know like other male perspectives and things that how, like, for example, like how to approach Black men in terms of the things about therapy and how to start up that conversation and things like that, because a lot of the times we might get defensive in terms of like, hey, you should go to therapy to go seek some help or whatever, just saying you should go to therapy. So I'm not crazy or things, and all the stigma. So I really would like to hear the different perspectives of how, if and when you would, like, if someone would tell you to like go to therapy, how would you want that approach without feeling like offensive or something like that?
Any other thoughts on the episode?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was real good. I think, to be honest, and let me be transparent. I think it was one of the first times where I kind of saw like you Moyo with a humble approach when it comes to like guys and like kind of just seeing things from our perspective in that way. I'm like, okay, it's good. It's good to feel that what I'm saying, because I'm sure sometimes guy especially Black men interacting with Black women isn't always a positive experience, and we sometimes it's just can be looked at as just the way niggas are. things are, you know what I'm saying? But, it's a root to that. It's a root to that. And so I feel like, I feel very empathized with in that sense. And, and on a personal level, it's just, it's our lives. It's brothers like me and Tate's our lives. I'm sure, I don't know if he has brothers, but I have brothers who I grew up with and brothers who I didn't grow up with. And so I have these conversations every day about mental health, about checking in, about writing about things that aren't, you know, stigmatized or that are stigmatized. And, just having an open dialogue about things is, is something that I pride myself on because, I didn't have that opportunity when I was younger. So I sent that video out to a few of my brothers, dudes who I grew up with, and hopefully they take this into consideration and look at it, and so we can have more discussion about it.
Yeah. What about you, Mr. Tate?
First off, just to having a conversation around it, you even opened up saying that this isn't, this is obviously Black Bonnet series was a space created for women, Black women. So even the fact that you had a conversation including or even about Black men was something I was like, okay, I see you. So, and again, it was a positive thing, just like Schwartz said. So it wasn't, nothing about necessarily attacking or, and then emphasizing. So, it was good to know that like there is some understanding or behind on reasons where some things happen for it. It is not if it's right or wrong what it is, but the fact is that there is a cause to the effect of how things are. So now I was appreciative of that. The conversation is something I think is prevalent for our times now, as mental health is increasing as awareness about it. Obviously, especially it needs to be talked about more in our Black communities, men and women. So just the conversation around it is something that's definitely needed to talk about, especially that for being a Black man isn't always, encouraged, or talking conversation around it isn't always encouraged. So the episode is definitely well needed and appreciative of it. So good job, Moyo.
Thank you guys so much. I feel so loved. Wow. Okay, so let's jump right into questions now that we have, given our first impressions. Okay, so within the episode, I'm not gonna lie, like doing the research, I think doing the research kind of, I don't want to say softened me, but it did soften me just a little bit because I was like, okay, I am starting to understand a bit more about why, certain actions by Black men are like, bro, where the hell did it come from? Like, why did you do what you did? Or, why do we behave the way that we do? And then it dawned on me that, like, that's why. But at the same time, the big question I have is that, like, given that, like, now that you two know, some of the origins of why so many Black men are the way that they are, especially due to the fact that we all carry the trauma gene. Do you think that at this point in life, with the way certain Black men, treat their traumas, do you think that they're complacent to their traumas? Like, do you feel that as Black men, there's something that they could do more to, try to erase or deal with their traumas in a healthier way?
That's a loaded question. Okay, all right. One thing I wanted to say is that I don't think a lot of people even recognize that they have traumas. So with that being out in the moment, I don't think men have had enough conversations to recognize also things and why it connects and why we are. So I feel like a lot of things are just natural reactions to, or impulses, or what's the word I'm thinking about? Just hopefully the word comes to me while I'm speaking. But I don't feel like it's I'm mad. Why am I mad? I don't think we have those moments. I feel like it's a mad and a reaction, and it's only that I've learned throughout my years, and also just working with like toxic masculinity and man boxes, some work I've done in the past. But it's just more about we're only taught one thing, and that's one reaction or one feeling to have, and that's just anger and mad. So a lot of that is just immediately I'm mad, and the first thing I do is react. People have different reactions, so aggression or how they let out their reactions or their traumas. But I think of first things that people don't go back and try to figure out why. So I don't know if too many Black men that I know of that really sat down and tried to go figure out why they are the way they are or react the same way they react. And that's why it's also a recurring thing, because it's never addressed it from the beginning. I don't know if that answers your question, but like I just to get that out first because I don't feel like a lot of people understand that there even is trauma or think there's something they need to change. I don't think they even have the thought of like, yo, this is something I need to change. I think a lot of people are, I guess you could say, complacent about this is how I am or who I am, not necessarily like, oh, complacent, like, oh, I'm okay with the actions that I do, but I don't think they understand how to even change it. So this is just who I am, and I think that's just how they accept it. Like, this is who I am. This is, if I'm angry, I've had friends who unfortunately, got locked up. A lot of them was because of anger management problems. When they got anger, they chose the violence, hacking, different types of things. You feel me? And my man's that did 3 years, came out, conversations, and he's gotten better. But his first thing with anger, he'd be like, yo, bro, like if I get angry, it's over. Like I had the situation that I had to prevent him from fighting. Just come there, he's not going to swing on somebody. But I don't think he understands from childhood or why he's angry. He just knows that I have anger management problems and I'm accepted that that's just who I am. So when I'm angry, I'm going to try to just walk away. Like, so I don't know if that's just from my experience.
What about you, Schwartz?
Yeah. In the episode, you also mentioned like forms of therapy, like where, like I used to be in therapy when I was younger, and sometimes I said too much, sometimes I didn't say anything, and it just when you're a child, you don't really know what to say, how to say it, things like that. But a form of like I don't know if you guys know the show All American.
Yeah.
But they talk about this form of you guys okay, talk about this form of. Well, one of the episodes, he said, the main character, he was like, I'm angry. I'm always angry. I'm angry to his dad and all that. He had to get to the root of it. And then another episode, it talks about this thing called narrative therapy, right? And so, of course, I wrote a book, Be Your Own Hero. This was my form of narrative therapy when it came to...
That was great production. Bro. That was great. That was a great time.
That's a good
Come on, promo.
I just want to say that. That was fine, bro. That was OD fine.
This is a form of narrative therapy where it's like it takes away what people project on me and what I know about myself and my truth. And so, during that process, the writing process, putting down things on paper, getting it out of your system of why you're angry, why I feel so prideful, why I feel inadequate, all those things. And then kind of just replaying that in your mind and get out loud and just going over and over. Like Tate said, and like you said, Moyo, like acknowledging it, recognizing that there is, an issue there or some kind of like something that you got to figure out where it's like it leads to unhealthy relationships, which leads to another book when it comes to this one, right? This one, I kind of speak more about unhealthy relationships. It's called Fallen Man Fantasies. This is where, like, this one's not out yet. As you can see, it's been written and all that, because I'm still editing it. I'm still trying to process the form of of course, I was married and then divorced. Like, why did I get divorced? Why did things like that. And so for my personal form of therapy, it is writing, and that is clinically proven to help alleviate some of the stress, some of the trauma, some of the anxiety that goes on in the Black man's mind.
Yeah. For me, and I agree with both Schwartz and Tate, especially on Tate's point about sometimes we don't recognize the traumas that we do have, because even during in the episode, I stated the fact about approximately 56 to about 76% of Black men have experienced trauma at a very young age and don't even realize it. And for me, it's like, damn, even for me as a Black woman, it was like 2 years ago that I realized that, like, at the age of 5, I had seen traumatic things. Like, I'm still processing it. I'm still wondering, because it's funny because I told a friend of mine this, and when I was really young, I never knew why I did not like people's hands around my neck. Couldn't figure it out for the life of me. Till this day, I don't know why. But now that I'm older, I'm recognizing that it's a traumatic response. To what? I sincerely don't know. But it's the same thing that I can relate to with Black men, and the fact that, like, sometimes you just don't know what actions have been traumatic and what actions haven't been traumatic. And I think that, for me, it's like, how can you recognize if something is traumatic? Is there even a way to recognize it when, as an adult now, it's like sometimes you're still questioning, like, oh, nah, that's just life. like that justification of like, oh, that's just what happens in the hood. That's just what happens in my household. That's just the way my dad shows my mom love. That's, justification of things like, how can you even begin? How can Black men begin to kind of analyze what is trauma? Is there an answer for that?
I don't think there is. I guess, but all right. If there is a way, it would have to be from somebody that you trust or someone you feel comfortable with checking you. And I don't feel like too many men have that person that they really allow to really check them. And there's also most of the people that are the people that's close enough to check them are the ones that's not encouraging it, but allowing the behavior to keep flowing or keep progressing. So I don't feel like, but again, it's hard to say that because I feel like it wasn't until I'm 24, about to be 25 next month. There's certain things that show up just in certain situations. Like certain things I learned about myself when you get into a relationship with a woman. Do you learn things about yourself that you wouldn't even know that may be connected to something else? Last girl I talked to, I learned about something about me, but it was connected to the lack of my dad being in my life when I was a younger age. Stuff that I'm not going to think about unless it happens. You feel me? So it's like, unless that, and it wasn't until that person checked me to let me know that it was something I was doing wrong. But if you don't get checked, you ain't going to know. You feel me? Like if I just get mad and nothing happens, there's no repercussions or nothing that I feel like needs to be done. All right, when I get mad, the same thing's gonna happen again. You feel me? So unless you're getting checked, in my opinion, or you're self-aware, which it's kind of hard to be self-aware about things you don't know is an issue. You really, I don't see it being much of a change or much of an opportunity to recognize things.
Yeah.
I think that there can be small changes made, like you're saying, Tate, like if where it's like checking your friends or having these conversations, right? Like you two, you're having this conversation now. You go out, you guys have friends, and go and have these conversations and make sure that you check people because then you're setting that example, right? And the same, then they will go and set those examples of things like that. So then building those connections can start to like maybe put a little dent in the healing process of the stuff that is so normalized in the world. And which is what comes from why, like you were saying with the complacency, like there no one knows that this is honestly a traumatic response. And you say in the video, like little simple things that we say all the time or do all the time, they come and stem from trauma or like, oh well, that's just life, this is whatever. It's like, no, it's not. This is normalized. Yes, it's normalized in the hood, but it's not normal. It's not things we shouldn't be seeing. Someone bleeding out on the floor or like whatever the case is, like at 5 years old of being sexually assaulted or anything at these ages, like that's not normal. But we normalize it so much, and we don't. I think that's where it needs to start, of like not normalizing and having the conversations of this is not normal, and opening that dialogue. Because if it's not open, then everyone is just going to continue to think that this is just normal and keep doing the same behaviors.
Yeah.
So, no, that was good. I like what you said. Definitely, we normalize certain things that we saw growing up.
Yeah.
Definitely, we normalize, And again, you said some Moyo in your, last episode where it was like, trauma or choice. It's not even choice. Consciously, you don't even know that you about to explode on somebody. You about to, you know what I'm saying? And like, we think frustration is anger. Frustration. You're not angry, you're frustrated, but we can't even like separate the two. Those are two different emotions that you may cause the same response in your actions. And that's one of those things where it's like, you can't identify emotions. It's hard to get past those things. So I would definitely say, you got to want to, like not change, but, be healthier.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like be healthier, because some of us was raised by unhealthy parents and unhealthy situations. And then, for me, what helped me is God, that opportunity to start over, to be a new creation, to not hang my head because I did some messed up things in the past, move forward,
Yeah. Now that we've talked about that, I think one thing I really want to get your opinions on is this trauma gene that Black folks got. For me, hearing it and, seeing it and now discovering that it's a it's becoming a new field, epigenetics, for people to study, and just knowing that like black men and women, we have this gene that just contains all our trauma from, our parents and ancestors down. It, like, hearing everyone talk, it just makes me wonder, not to be a pessimist, but just really, really think that, like, as the black in the black community as a whole, especially with black men, as a way to cope, they have really just kind of, I don't want to say dumb things down, but just made a justification for everything. Every hardship has a justification so that, we don't break under the pressure. And that is, in fact, aided in this trauma gene. And it makes me wonder, like, is there a way to denormalize what shouldn't be considered normal? Because that's the only way that, for me, I feel like black men will get better and will feel comfortable enough to ask for help and will feel comfortable enough to go to therapy. Because I want my black men to be better. I want them to be happy. I want them to feel, the love that they deserve. I want them to be emotionally secure. But if we're normalizing seeing domestic violence, if we're normalizing, you know, anger and, these sorts of ideals, it's like, when will the cycle ever break? And when will the trauma gene no longer be a gene that we have within us? I know that's a loaded, like, spitball, but, like, pick on whatever you feel like you need to discuss on, I guess.
I don't think that it would ever like go away, and maybe this is me being pessimistic, but it's because there's so many layers to it. Right? So one, you have everything that goes back, like obviously, like we were talking about in the video, from all the things that we deal with, everything that's in society today that people try and say that it's not in society. Then you have all the stress, everything in the system that is literally built to keep us down, right? There's just mental health, even to get the services is expensive, and to even be able to take one session is like hundreds of dollars, right? You have so many layers, the stigma around therapy, where one man can't even feel anything other than anger, and even then, it's like if you do feel anger, you're still condemned for it. So you're not even allowed to feel. You're allowed to be. You have to be a robot. You have to just provide, do certain things, and live this life. That's not even for yourself. You have to live this life that's for your wife, your children, and everyone else, and do your role in society, right? You're supposed to act a certain way. You're supposed to do a certain thing. So that's all that is going to continuously add stress and stress and stress, and that it takes a physiological toll, which obviously, if people, I don't know how much people know about science and things like that, but it, or your genes can alter based off your experiences and the stress that you have, and that's what causes this trauma gene and all this other stuff. And we accept that a lot of times for white people of like, oh well, this person's a drug addict because their parents were, and they're more susceptible to this, which yes, it is true, but why can't we accept this for black people, and black men and things like that, and have that same understanding when it comes to black people and the choices that they make, and not stigmatize these things. There's just so many layers that I don't think that it's ever going to go away. I think it's going to take a lot of work and probably many centuries in order to like fix it, or even put a remotely any dent into it to make it better.
I don't know if you want to go first or me, Schwartz, but
No, I, that was interesting. I mean, for those who, I mean, just before we jumped on the panel, I seen I remember when you said, Chanel, like in one of the first episodes, was how like you just kind of, when we tell our story, we start with trauma, right? We start with, oh, he didn't grow up with a dad, he grew up poor or in poverty and things like that. Then like just before we got on live, like I seen your significant other, I seen your family, and just what I'm saying, like you was just, chilling, eating and all that. And I just thought that was a very positive image, just to like come on to, what I'm saying, see my brother taking care of his lady taking, what I'm saying? Yeah, taking care of the children and everything. And I think it can be distorted if we don't see images like that, if we don't see more positive images. Instead, we see George Floyd getting choked out, what I'm saying, on national television. If that's the perpetuating image in the media, that I'm gonna think, damn, I'm gonna die at the hands of police every time I walk out the door. But if I see the positive images of a black man, you know, not just leading the family, but co-leading the family. If I see the black man holding his child, being there, protecting his woman, if I perpetually see that, if I see the black man smiling, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the reason why I put a smiling face of me on the book, because it wasn't a lot like Charlemagne the God. I read a lot of black men autobiographies, and all of them just had these heads down, these heads hanging. They seemed depressed. It's like, when you make it past 25, is it like just always depressing? Is it all that? Do we not have the enjoyment of being a family man, of being more than just a machine, a moneymaker? Or do we have the opportunity to be with our families when we get older? And like I said, that image, I think media image portrays a big play into how we can potentially move on. And I definitely agree. It's going to take a lot of centuries and generations to break those curses of the trauma dream, because it's in us. It could trigger at different aspects of different moments. Probably triggered a lot more of us when we seen George Floyd, and then when we seen Breonna Taylor, who's asleep in her bed. You know what I'm saying? Like, those things are like traumatic, and reminds us of slavery, even though we physically weren't enslaved. Like that, those memories and all that comes to our genes, because it's in our blood. It's in our blood. And so I think it starts with those images of positive, being seen, a positive man, play the role of the protector, of the provider, of doing what he's supposed to do, and helping co-lead a family and just doing the right thing. So I think that's the start.
Yep. I said I'm trying to say stuff that I said a lot of the two things I was gonna say. So one thing I was gonna say that Chanel said is that I do not, because there's a lot of unwinding of generations and generations and centuries that what Schwartz has also said, leading that we're going to have to reverse a lot of that. This is going to take generations and generations and generations to make. The thing that I was going to say that Schwartz touched on a lot of it was there's too much, and the reason why I was going to say, why they connect. I'm backing up the reason why I don't think it's possible, because there's too many different influences. So, social media is one of them. But you have so many different people who live in different socio-economic places, different environments. You know, my life growing up as a kid in Yonkers, New York is totally different from somebody who lives in upstate Ithaca. That's totally different from somebody who lives in Compton, somebody who lives in Australia who's black. You know, there's black people all over the world. You know, black experiences is different. And their influences is totally different from what I'm influenced to, the people that surround me. You know, if you want to talk about, my family is predominantly from North Carolina down south, originated from there. But a Southern way, my family themselves is totally different from I am. You know, was raised different. I have cousins that's raised differently from mine. We're both black, both blood, you know, same last name and everything, but it's just different experiences and different, what's the word I'm looking for? I just said it earlier. Different, like
upbringing.
Yeah, upbringings, but different, like,
background.
We're exposed to so many different things, backgrounds, different information we're like shown and stuff like that. So on top of that, again, like you said, Schwartz said, beautifully said, that there's not a lot of positivity that shows black men doing stuff. But again, like, to go back to the simple fact, there's not a lot of black men talking about black feelings. So talking about there just isn't. How do we expect people to try to do it when there's nobody? I don't know anybody right now I can take off the top of my head that talks about black men issues. The only person I can associate is somebody that Schwartz wouldn't know, but Rock. Because I went to Ithaca College with. And that's how I got into what I got to, a lot of the things that I worked with his group of Call a Man, and then a lot of his masculinity issues and stuff. That's the only reason why I even got exposed to it, was because I was fortunate enough to work with Rock. But you talking about that, I wasn't having these conversations. I wasn't even talked about how it's okay to feel things. I wouldn't know all this stuff. And even just that's great information, but how am I going to get that to every single black man that needs it? You know, and there's like that's the issue that I really feel about. Is that, like, yeah, we can have it on the TV, but let's just be honest. We can put it on Twitter. I don't use Twitter. Cool. So many people, like, if social media could be a great way, but there's so many people who don't even use social media. There's so many people who don't watch TV. I don't watch TV. You talking about, so you're gonna have to put this on cross platforms and movies. You want to talk about that? This movie that we don't see this in movies. There's nobody talking about black men's health in movies. There's no like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like we're so behind in regards to the information and influences that we're gonna need to reach all black men. Me and Schwartzen gonna make our own podcast talking about that. We only get 300 views. We only get 300 viewers. You feel me? They can trickle it down. You feel me? What I'm saying? But the point is that, like, yo, we still need to reach so many more people who live in so many different lifestyles than us, that it's just so different. My black experience is gonna be totally different from Schwartz's black experience, just as from when my cousins is gonna be down south, with somebody living in Arizona. I just feel like with all of that, our traumas is, yes, it's a black gene, we have a trauma gene in us, but we still have different traumas that even if I talk about one, it might not even relate to somebody else who's going through something. You know, so I just feel like it's like Chanel originally said, it's too complex to just attack one angle. It's gonna take a lot. I love to start. Let's start. I'm not saying it's impossible. Let's start. Like, you know, definitely do something about it. But it's gonna be nearly impossible to I don't know what your original question was. Reverse it.
You fine.
Like for us to feel the effects of it. Like
feel the effects. Yeah, for me, yeah.
Okay, so now that we know that it's that, because for me, I like I said before, doing this episode softened my heart a little bit for black men. I was like, dang. But at the same time, it's like I don't. For anyone that might see this, you know, I don't want us to end on a note of like it's gonna take a lot of work. Like, what's one thing that each individual, whoever watches this, male or female, what's one thing we can implement to our daily, you know, day-to-day life that can make it easier? And I don't want to say like kind of be the spark, but be the spark a little bit for instrumenting change in this trauma gene in black men. Like, for black men, what do y'all, you know, need? Like, what is one thing daily that would be helpful?
Check in with yourself. Check in with yourself. I don't think we ever take the time to check in with ourselves. It's really simply that. How do I feel? Simple questions you can ask yourself. I know you can go through a day and you can have, for me, I was working 2 jobs at one point and going to the gym in between, and just take a second. Yo, how do you feel? What is it like? Just checking in with yourself, because if you don't know how you feel, you can't expect. If I don't know how I feel, how can I expect to tell somebody else how I feel?
Yeah.
So I think the first step that anybody, not even black men, black women, any women, like any woman or man, just check in with yourself. Because just do it every day, because you sometimes don't even know how you really feel. I could just feel anxiety but not know where it's from if you just don't stop to check in with yourself. You know, I could just feel excitement, but where is it coming from? I'm uneasy or something. That's my one thing I can say for me. Just check in with yourself once a day, 5 seconds. How do I feel? Ask a simple question. Yeah, that's one way to start it, because if we all know how we feel, and then we can, next step is how do we combat it, or what's the thing we need to do? If we want to fuel our happiness, so let's find more ways to make it happy. But if we're feeling unhappy, what's the way we can change it? If we don't know what it is from the source, then ain't nothing we can do about it.
Yeah. Schwartz.
Something that I did as soon as, because I wasn't that self-aware. When I came out of college, I was self-absorbed, and so, but the one thing I wanted to keep it real, but I did want to give back to the community. I just didn't know how. So what I did, I worked at a community center my first year out of college, like 4 years ago. And, you know, working with youth. And I'm no expert at anything. You know, I have a bachelor's, you know, I'm well educated, but I'm not an expert to be writing about a book about a topic I know from front to back. But I do know a little bit about my life and the story and the traumas and perpetuating things like that. And so you know, about robbing, stealing. And so I work with kids in the juvenile center, juvenile detention. And little aspects of just letting them know what they could or couldn't do right, little seeds, you know, giving them a little bit of positive. That's kind of how like I kind of went viral, because I went into like, you know, not just like no economic communities, but the way I did it, it was like, okay, like I'm a kid, you know, I'm 23 years old. You know, I'm trying to do what's right, even though it's not really popular and it's not really the thing that people talk about. But it was respected in the community enough to like where I got sponsorship. People did pay me to come in and speak and do things like that, because it was something that, like, you know, not too many people see. So what I would suggest, you know, community involvement, where it's like you want to help even someone just as young as yourself or in a juvenile detention center or something like that. Like I just sent a book to someone who's locked up right now over in the Bronx. So it's like little things where I feel like not obligated, but it's sort of responsibility to help someone who's younger than me and I could give some sort of wisdom to.
Okay.
Yeah. I agree with what both Tate and Schwartz said. I do think that, again, just continue. I'm always an advocate to have these conversations. I do similar work, Schwartz, and with like the community within Manhattan and like people who live in the projects and stuff, and just, you know, helping them get employment opportunities and or seek higher education, and just realize that, there's more to life than the streets, or just, kind of that there's more. Just because you know you got dealt a bad hand, it doesn't mean that your whole life has to be that, right? So I think having those conversations again and keeping that open. I think with respect to specifically just black boys or men and stuff, I think I want to talk a little bit about that, just like in terms of what I do, to like with my relationships with my friends. It's more of just allowing or creating that space to allow them to be open, whether that means to cry, to yell, to be sad, to be hurt, or even just texting them like I love you, or saying like I care about you, I'm here for you, whether they respond or not, like especially knowing if they're going through something. Um, Checking in to, because like sometimes we might not be able to be like, how am I feeling, but being that soundboard, or things like that, where you can allow them to feel whatever it is that they feel with no judgment. Sometimes we're always on the go, especially in the city. We're always on the go, 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 and trying to hustle, trying to get this money, especially if you didn't have it growing up. Sometimes it's about, okay, you can take a pause and check in with yourself, or have someone there to that you trust to talk to you, to let you know like it's okay to say whatever you want to say. And if you want to have a crying breakdown for 30 minutes or an hour and then fall asleep, cool, I'm gonna sit with you for these 2 hours. You have your breakdown and you can go to sleep. And then whatever the case is, if you need that space, literally anything what it is that um like I try to provide that for like my friends, obviously my significant other and things, and people, so that they have, especially black men, that safe space to feel those emotions. And I think that's like super, super important, and probably one thing that's also would help kind of move things along, if black men had that safe space to have either the conversation or to just have those emotions.
Yeah. Um, I think the one thing I want to add to what Tate said, especially about checking in daily, is after you check in, ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Because for me, I found
Mm-hmm.
that, like I would do the daily check ins, especially whenever I just would wake up, especially when I would wake up in a mood. Like if I just woke up and I'm like, I'm not so happy. I feel like I woke up with the wrong side of the bed. I feel like something's wrong. I immediately am like, I'm not happy, but why am I not happy? And then I reflect on like what happened yesterday, what happened this morning, or what is that one thing that I don't. And I'll be honest with myself. And I think that is for me, I guess the one thing that I would say to viewers is that be honest with yourself. You ain't got to be honest with me. You ain't got to be honest with, I don't know, your mother. I don't know. But like at least do yourself the dignity and and just be honest with yourself. Like it takes a lot of vulnerability to share with others and to be like, hey, I need help.
Mm-hmm.
But you could just admit to yourself that, you know what, I feel some type of way because this, that, and the third happened to me as a kid. Like those little steps are not even that little. Like those are major milestones, in my opinion, in healing that traumatic gene, in changing behaviors that you don't agree with, and denormalizing things that you feel should never have been normalized in the first place. I feel like, just like Tate said, just doing those daily check-ins, and also asking yourself like why you feel the way you feel, if you're not as happy as you usually are. It goes a long way, because if that becomes a daily habit, I feel like it just saves. Honest to God, I feel like a low key save money. If you don't have money to go to therapy, I feel like it can low key save you money, because you are already putting into, you're already developing a skill that a therapist would tell you to do anyway. They'll probably tell you write it down. They'll probably tell you get a journal, and I just feel like, but these advice and these steps that everyone is giving, I want to preface it by saying it's only going to work if you want it to work. If you're not ready to heal, if you're not ready to be better, if you're not ready to, denormalize things that were traumatic to you, that you don't even realize were traumatic, but you know that when you see it, you feel some type of way. When you hear about it, you feel some type of way. It's only, all these steps are only going to work if you're ready to hear it, if you're ready to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, does anyone have anything to say about that one?
Well, disagree. You can't
Mm-hmm.
force you to want to change. That's anything in life. So 100% agree.
Yeah. Um, so I guess just, final thoughts, I guess, closing thoughts on this episode. And I guess I can start it off. For me, I guess for now on, I will say this. I will try my hardest. I promise you. I will try my hardest to be a lot more empathetic towards black men and have a lot more patience for them. And I will also preface this by saying that, like, I know for me personally, the reason why my patience is not as long with black men as it would be with black women is primarily because of the trauma that I've experienced from black men. But now that I am understanding the origins of why, certain actions aren't even their own, and sometimes they don't even recognize like what it is. Um, I promise to be a lot more empathetic and patient towards black men. I think that's one thing this episode has taught me. Yeah, okay, the host can learn too. So that's one thing I am learning. What about you guys?
Um,
Oh, go ahead.
go, Shanna.
I feel like I've had the opposite effect, but that's only because I've grew up around mostly black men, and even though black men have caused me trauma, I feel like, or maybe that's just me and my personality, but like I've always had more like that empathy side because of that. I'm trying to always understand where that person's coming from. And yes, while I have attitude problems, and yes, I have, I like can blow up and things like that, but I do a lot of the times, and why I try my best to do that work of like providing that safe space or texting those I love you texts or things like that, is for that reason, because I do have a brother, two older brothers who I see how their traumas have gotten them to the places that they are now, and how they are stuck in those ways. So I think that's the reason why I'm more able to have that, because I see how still to this day it affects them. And unfortunately, like sometimes it takes a lot more time to get things through someone's head. So like, hey, you need like seek help or um anything, or just even having them recognize and not use the words, well, that's life and things just happen, and letting them know like it's not normal for it to happen. Those are conversations that I've been having with my older brothers for literally years. So it's yeah, I think for me it's more of like it motivates me to not give up for people that are like my brothers, and for others who, whether they understand it or not, and to continue to want to do more work, because having that less stigma can possibly help in the future deal with all the other issues that just in general the black community goes through. um, because if we as women, like in the other episodes, blaming black men for certain things, and not having that understanding, then that means that we yes, we support black men and all these other things, but if we have more of those opportunities and those spaces for black men to seek help and things like that, then possibly we can deal with other issues that black men inflict on black women or other black men because of their trauma that they don't even recognize.
Yeah.
So it kind of just motivates me to want to keep doing that work.
Black men.
Uh, I'm gonna just speak from experience because I'm not gonna lie. Like, uh, maybe about 2 years ago was the first time I can honestly say myself speaking on feelings. Like I was very self-aware. I feel, but telling somebody else, no, I don't talk about my feelings. I don't talk about who I am and stuff like that. And that stuff I'm still working on. And I'm, for the record, I can't say I have been for the last, up to about 6 months ago, I was basically 100% closed off for therapy. There was no way in hell you're going to get me to go speak to somebody. I don't know if y'all want to know why or anything. I don't know, but like, it was just, it just wasn't for me. Like, I just felt like I'd rather speak to somebody that I actually know cares and gives two shits about who I am, rather than paying for some, most likely, unfortunately, sometimes, most of the time, they are white people who really, at the end of the day, are just not trying to get a paycheck. Most of them do genuinely care, but it's like, I'd rather just speak to somebody else I care about, that is free, that I have trust in. So I never, like, that's the reason why I just personally, bangs with therapy. I think you still need to speak in some other way. If you do not like therapy, I'm not saying forget therapy and don't speak. I want people to encourage that, but find somebody, and that's something like, but it wasn't until somebody 2 years ago literally simply made me speak. Somebody that I was talking to, and it was an instant where I was like, nah, like they asked me a question, I'm like, nah, I really don't feel like talking about that. And they just wouldn't let me get off that topic. Now, I'm not saying forcefully. I'm fortunate enough that I'm not an aggressive, angry person, but that once I was forced to speak, it was easier to speak once you do it. So I definitely just encourage people to. You ain't got to force nobody, but encourage people to speak. So I feel like unless they know that they can speak to you, not everybody's gonna want to speak to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you just can't expect somebody to speak to you just because, oh, that's my boy. No, he should be able to speak to me now. Like, ask. Like, sometimes you gotta be the proactive one if people aren't that easy of speaking. And I'm definitely somebody who's still, to this day, I got people who be like, I don't know nothing about you and nothing like that. And I'm like, I just don't speak. But like, unless you ask for me, like, I'll be more inclined to speak my mind if I'm asked about it, rather than me just coming and bluntly saying it. So I don't. That's not for everybody. I'm just speaking for myself. But I do realize that if you are there and you let somebody know that you are there by asking for them, it makes me seem like, all right, you actually are interested in wanting to know what's affecting me or my feelings, rather than me just telling you and me being like, oh, they really don't care anyway. You feel me? So I guess that's my 2 cents. And just like, yo, like, encourage more people. Ask. Just, yo, I'm here to speak to you. Speak if you need it. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted to just add on to like what you were saying, like that is a form of therapy because you're still talking about it. You're getting just like Schwartz writing it down. All that is still therapy because the point of therapy is to get the feelings out, not for the therapist to tell you what to do, right? So if as long as you're getting it out and it's happening, that's why a lot of people or even therapists encourage like, or families or anybody, like if not to, you don't have to talk to me, or I always say you don't have to talk to me, but you have to talk to someone or say something or do something that you love, whether it's drawing, writing, journaling, whatever, because it's still therapeutic. Whether your music, doing all those things for you, maybe you didn't see it as therapy, but you listening to your music and doing all these other things, that's just, obviously I can say that because I know you, but that's your way and your form of therapy and figuring out things for yourself because it helped you calm down. You don't go to the gym. All that is considered therapy. So like you'll say like, okay, I'm not into therapy, but that is therapy. It's your therapy. It's just not the traditional therapy of what people say. It's like, I have to go sit down on a couch. That's not for everybody. It's not to sit there and be like, to demean that, but it really isn't for everybody. If it means making music or drawing or journaling, writing a book, like that's all part of therapy.
Yeah, I would say give us time to mature too. For those who might be leaning more towards still after watching every episode, every live panel for more, you still think niggas ain't shit. I think you can still give us look. You can still give up men, time to mature because it took a lot of maturing, some time. It took a lot of conversation. It's not gonna happen overnight. Give us some time. You know what I'm saying? We still growing, as me and Tate still growing. We still, in our mid-20s. Some men never wake up. And this is the new generation where we can have a platform to speak online and it can go viral and somebody could, check in. So it takes a lot of, time. So be patient with us as we grow as men, as we grow into our identity, our new identity, the fact that we can be open with our emotions, the fact that we can be emotionally vulnerable. Just to share a quick, personal story. Yesterday was the first time first time I cried in front of my lady. I think what Tay said earlier, where we feel overwhelmed. Like this week was one of the most anxious week of my life, just because of like I did, I got drafted, yes, but I put that pressure on myself because I haven't signed a professional contract in 3 years because of my divorce, and then thinking about the broken relationship, it like put me in a place where I was neglecting her, neglecting myself, just working, just being overwhelmed and not checking in. But even now, as I said, it's like, wow. We need that time, and I'm only 26. I'm sure I'm going to thank myself when I'm 30 and things like that. Thank this panel, these discussions, to keep in mind the things that I've been learning. And one day when I begin my family or continue my family and things like that, I'll know that I've been taking the proper steps that I need in order to be the best version of myself.
Well, thank you guys so much for everything that you guys have said. And tears. Now it is the highlights. We're just gonna give our quick little, I guess, highlights on the season, because season 2's it's coming to an end. This is it. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I guess I'll just start off with the highlights. I feel like, when I first started the show last year during Miss Coviana, I never thought that it would be something that I would grow into having panelists or even doing a season 2. Sincerely, I was just doing it because I was bored. I was like, there's nothing else to do in the house. And I talk a lot of shit on social media anyway. Let me put it on camera. But I guess for me, the biggest highlight, which I feel bad that I really need to text the group chat more whenever like these things happen, because it happens a lot more than I expected. But a highlight for me is always hearing what people have to say after an episode. I remember like this week, in fact, one of my professors texted me saying that she is watching the episode about white women. And when I got the message, my heart dropped because I'm like, you're my professor. Don't fail me. But like, it was just amazing to see that, like, she was so receptive to it and just open to wanting to learn. And I didn't even know that my episode had gotten to her ears. Like, word of mouth really helps. But, just knowing that, people that I didn't even mean to touch or reach with the show are hearing what each and every one of us is saying. So whenever, that's one thing I really wanted to say and thank my panelists for, is that like, y'all words really do change lives and really is affecting people. And that is, it will always be my main goal with everything that I do, especially with this show, my firstborn child, as I'll call her, is just to impact people's lives in a way that like I probably can't do all the time. Like, I'm not gonna sit in the street and give a sermon like I'm a Jehovah's Witness person. Like, nah. This is my platform, and I cannot thank you guys enough for giving up your Sundays to do this, being a part of it, and just helping me. You guys really are helping me achieve a goal of mine and a dream of mine. So that has been my highlight. Anyone else? If you have a highlight?
I guess my highlight would just be, and this is more towards Moyo, obviously, because this is your show. But it is a positive thing to see a Black woman doing things. It's been a highlight every single week to see the amount of effort and things you put into the show. Like, yeah, this is our panel. We're here, but, you have to drop an episode for us to even be here. So just seeing your work ethic and, like, it's not like, I just get in front of a camera. Like, you said it, I talk my shit. But no, like, you do your research. It's not that you're just talking. You feel me? You do extensive research. You talk about topics that are to date and needs to be, and is going to be prevalent in our upbringing and our kids' upbringing. It's things that are going to be around, and conversations and topics is going to be around for years to come that is amazing that not a lot of people are talking about. So I just want to highlight, my highlight is just seeing you, again, you're the youngest out of all of us, and you're doing big things, and like you really are, like, yes, your stuff is finally getting seen by people that need to see it. If you realize your professor needs, people that need to see it. So like, I just want to highlight, you said, like, as somebody who wants to, we've talked behind the scenes, and everybody here knows that I want to start getting to stuff like this. And a lot of things I'm working on behind the scenes, but it's just like, that work that you put in is a highlight to me. Like, like this is what you need to do, the preparation, the conversations, the research, that's all a part of everything. And I just want to say you did a phenomenal job. So I just want to shout out to Moyo. Just like, yo, thank you. Like,
oh my gosh, thank you. Also, for the record, this is the first time he's ever given me a compliment. So everyone heard it. Like, it's recorded. It's on the internet. You can't take it back. I'm just saying.
She gonna hold you over this one.
That's fine me. Look, she's remember, about a couple weeks ago, I got mine. So that's what that is. A couple weeks ago, I got mine. So I'm good. You feel me? I'm good.
I'm dead. Anyone else?
I definitely agree with Tate, with you doing this. We had conversations about this privately and stuff like that. So how I feel about you and how like amazing you are. Schwartz, Tate, you guys are amazing too, like being vulnerable in this and getting your perspective and learning from you guys. It's really amazing. Tate, I know we have conversations. Schwartz, I just got to know you. I have a new friend. I met someone new out of this, and I think it's really great to just kind of have this space to talk. I know Tate and Moyo knows a little bit about every situation that I'm going through, like stuff that is just a lot of changes in my life. And this panel definitely, like for me personally, was something that really just kind of helped me get through this. Whether even though the topics were heavy and things like that, and things to think about, I'm a person that really likes to be stimulated from my mind, and this just kind of helped me just get through all these things and I push forward. So I really thank the three of you for just being here, having these conversations, Moyo for giving me this opportunity. And yeah, I love you guys, and you guys are great.
Thank you. Yeah, she knows.
I know.
Yeah,
This to me is just kind of like, I don't know. I watch too many Netflix things. But y'all seen Dear White People?
Yeah.
I seen that. Like, yeah, okay. This is kind of like my Dear White People kind of like moments and things like that. More, and probably a bad relation, but I think to have this in real life, this is like the real life version of it, because that was for awareness and two white people, and I'm sure just by the title they got turned off of it and things like that. Like I really I don't know, words can't I process it, I guess. Like I'm a writer, not a speaker. This is good. It helped put some things into perspective, and I just appreciate being a panelist as well. Like this is fun. And thank you think so highly of us, of me, and as your first panelist. I'm sure you'll have more in the future. I'm sure it's going to continue to grow. May God's grace be upon this podcast, and may He continue to bless you in mighty ways. He got a good man out there for you. You know what I'm saying?
Amen.
Continue to grow. He's grooming them.
Hey,
and then,
she's not doing that. You'll bless me.
Come outside. Come outside.
I want a queen too. You feel me? I need a queen.
He's trying to get his flowers now, right?
Yeah, for me.
He wants some of that
I need a
energy
queen
too.
Yeah, come on, bro. Pass it over.
Oh crap! We really are the only two single people.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yo, bro. Like, come on. Show that love. You know what I
mean?
mean?
When you get your podcast and all that, I'm gonna shout you out too.
All right, cool. I appreciate it.
Oh my God, y'all are stupid.
Right now, man.
Well, ladies, you heard it. Ladies, y'all heard it here first. Mr. Tate is single. He looking for his queen. So if you feel like you queen status, follow that Instagram. Shoot your shot. It is, it's summer.
Come here, I'm here. I don't bite. Just a little bit. My bad.
Okay. Well, it's not the end. It's farewell. I will see you guys sometime in the next couple of months on season 3 of the BBS. Thank you guys so much for joining with me. I'll catch you guys later.